Last year was the first year to award our Pearson Award for Innovation in Teaching with Technology. Obviously, the Pearson Publishing Company has been very generous to ABC, and we appreciate that very much. Our first winner is Abram Anders. He is from the University of Minnesota, Duluth, and he teaches classes in business writing, technical writing, rhetoric, and composition. And again, we asked them to write a philosophy of teaching, and Anders said, as a teacher of business and professional communication, my teaching philosophy is based on the premise that networked learning and the creation of connections between people, information, and tools can be a rich context of situated learning that supports these capabilities. And then he goes on to define situated learning. He is passionate about innovative teaching using technology. He implements a class blog, collaborative assignments, digital storytelling, MOOCs. I always forget what that stands for, but they're giant classes, right?
I'm going to talk about that.
Okay. Flipped learning, network learning, social media. His very recent accomplishments include being the faculty fellow for online and technology enhanced learning at the University of Minnesota in Duluth. Also a member of a faculty fellowship learning community that explores the possibility of technology-rich learning environments. He's the editor of a 4-volume work called Digital Scholarship for Cultivating Change in the Academy. You can see where this is going. Yeah, okay. And then I always like to end with pithy comments, okay, or quotations, and I have two. His department chair said, Dr. Anders has sought out faculty development opportunities and continued to adapt, add materials, and refine his teaching approach, making substantial changes to his courses each academic year. He has been an early adopter and innovator of virtual collaboration tools, the creation and use of multimedia and video instructional materials, and the use of social media and blogging in his courses. Even more impressive, though, the Vice Chancellor for Outreach and Online Delivery stated, he is the model of an innovator. He is best practice at this university.
Thank you. Good. Everybody hear me okay? I also want to start with some thank yous, and my first thank you really needs to go to my wife, Rochelle Zook, who's also an academic and scholar of early American literature. Last year, after I won the award, I called her up. I was so excited, and I rattled on for about 25 minutes about everything I was going to talk about in the plenary this year, and she said, no, 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 no. When you play the big rooms, keep it simple, keep it light, and keep it fun. And so, And so I'm going to do my best to hit at least 2 out of 3. But seriously, I did my talk, and she was right to give me that advice. The few of my favorite things turned into the many of my favorite things. But luckily, I left myself a stopping point about halfway. So if you like, my website is abramanders.com, and I'll have a lot more tools and resources and things that I would encourage you to check out after the talk in the virtual space. I'd also like to, forward. I'd also like to thank the ABC Teaching Committee for putting together this award. Those of you who also teach with technology, those of you who I've learned from at past ABCs know that teaching with technology can often have a large learning curve. And working at the cutting edge of technology, as we know, often means working at the bleeding edge of technology. And so I do think it's so important that we have awards and honors and recognition for people who are doing this important work. I start with a quote from the French philosopher Michel Foucault. What difference does today introduce with respect to yesterday? This is a quote from Foucault's essay on what is the Enlightenment, where he takes on the question that Kant first began in the Age of Enlightenment. And it's really an early attempt to try to grapple with what happens with technological innovation and social change. And I think Foucault had 2 major points in this essay that really bear well on our talk today. The first is it's easy to know what's new. It's hard to know what difference does it make. And it really takes some thinking to do that. Part of the reason is his second point, that what difference it makes is partly something that's an open question and for us to take the lead in finding out. And so today what I'd like to do with you is to talk about some of the next big things that I've encountered in the recent past and the use I've tried to make of them and how to figure out what difference they can make. And at the end, as time allows, I'll show you some of the things I see on the horizon. So first I begin with some theories, and I do want to spend some time talking about that dreaded four-letter word, MOOC, the massive online open courses. You may be familiar with MOOCs from the popular brands, Udacity, Coursera, edX. MITx is an early precursor, but you may not know that it actually originated with scholars of open learning in the both Canadian and US academic environments. Their MOOCs were very different. Far from the multimedia extravaganzas we see today on Coursera, they were networked communities, decentralized, who were blogging, communicating through social media, and finding ways to innovate through their social networks. Like all technologies, at first, we don't know what to make of it. New York Times told us in their article, The Year of the MOOC, that higher ed, you might as well pack it in. You're going to be replaced by these things, right? Well, we're still here. Our demise has been greatly exaggerated. And just as predictably, within a year or so, in 2013, we started to see some of the first negative reports and backlash. We realized that videos alone can't really allow people to complete courses in learning. As valuable as these experiments have been, they can't be all things to all people. But of course, just as predictably, the right isn't right and the wrong isn't wrong. Both of those have to make way for what happens in the aftermath. So I was interested in this question, and when I did some research and I started to look at the theories, I did a meta-analysis of the theories, and when I looked at the case studies of MOOCs, I found that actually there was far more diverse experiments happening than you would think from reading the headlines. Really what I found is that there's three main types, and these correspond to Canadian researchers Anderson and Drawn's 3 generations of online and distributed learning pedagogy. Now, I won't go through all of these right now. That's a lot of text. We'll give you the short version. So the main first type, content-based learning. This is the edX, the Coursera model. It's one-to-many mass transmission of information and content, high production values. This is amazing expert teachers in their highest form, putting in all their effort with a team of people working around them to provide high-quality content and to present it in a way that makes use of cognitive behaviorism as a learning theory. So we provide short videos, we provide those quizzes that help keep us paying attention, and we really kind of use everything we can in terms of learning analytics to make the content go well. But of course, there's a whole tradition of online learning that knows, in fact, content, even well-produced content, can't do it alone. And so I found a lot of examples of MOOCs and MOOC-like experiments that were using community and task-based learning, in which small group work, even in large courses, was the norm, in which students were collaborating together to learn, to share ideas, to reflect, to refine meaning. And also that the instructor, or at least an instructor-like presence, played an important role in providing formative feedback and helping people progress. The last type is my personal favorite. It's a little out there. It's the connectivist style or network-based learning. This picture you're looking at here is from ETMOOC, Educational Technology MOOC, that occurred in 2013. Each of the pictures in this, little pictures in this larger graphic, are individuals who are participating across social media, including Twitter, and across blogs. And each of the line represents a time that they communicated with each other, either in reply, in a common dialogue. And these are really powerful because what they do is they bring together networks of people who otherwise wouldn't get to know each other. They allow individuals to bring their own unique expertise, but also to fill in gaps that they may have in their expertise by connecting with other people. Ultimately, we know that the kind of diversity that occurs in networks like this, if you can get it together, is the thing that promotes innovation and recombinant idea generation. Of course, content alone didn't work well. Networked alone doesn't work well either because it's so self-directed and so wide open that people can easily become overwhelmed. But I think the lesson that I was able to take away from in my forthcoming article is that really we need to be designing with all of these contexts in mind. And we need to be aware that community and task-based strategies can make network-based learning more welcoming and more scalable and provide an entry point. And it can help people stick to and find greater meaning in more content-based approaches. Ultimately, I think for me, what I want to see happen and what I think will happen is that we're going to find ways as higher education professionals to move in this networked learning direction. We're going to do it in a supportive way and in a way that puts an emphasis on getting students in touch with professional context as a part of the work they do. The other next big thing I want to mention briefly is flipped learning, and I'm sure many of us are familiar with this. And one of the reasons why I like it so much is because I think that it hits all of us right where we do our day-to-day in our practice. And it provides an interesting, simple way of thinking about how can I wrangle all these different contexts of learning, all these different tools, and bring them together. One of the earliest popularizers of flipped learning, John Bergman, said that he felt like the movement's biggest value was that it really made us ask the question, what is the best use of class time? When we think about this model, we prepare outside of class with material and then do the exercises in class. You know, this may be a flip to some. This may be a flip to classes where it was all lecture and all homeworks outside of class. But I think for communication instructors and faculty and writing instructors and faculty, we've known this all along. You've got to help people do the actual work, not just cover the material. So a couple quick applications of where these two waves of technology led me to surf and try to find some ways to apply it in my own courses. The first comes from a study that's forthcoming from Business and Professional Communication Quarterly. It's actually online with Sage Online First. It's a flipping the composing process assignment sequence in which I help students do a collaborative drafting exercise in class. It begins with an assignment where they read the course chapter and the textbook. They do a self-inventory. And then a video sequence guides them through the process of searching for jobs on LinkedIn, on our local university job search engines, and then creating a blog post in which they distill out of those research the keywords that matter to their discipline so that they can have a very concrete and specific sense of what their audience is looking for. When they come to class, what this means is that they can move directly into a conversation with a peer where they compare their research and say, what are my employer needs and where can I go in my own personal history to find that evidence? And then we can move very quickly to having them put that collaborative value into action in a shared Google Doc. We break into groups of 5 to 6 students, and they actually do their first draft work on their resume in this space, employing the techniques of resume design that we've learned. The powerful thing is that as this is happening, the instructor, myself, can stand at the front of the classroom on my computer, and I can engage each of those students in each of those groups and model how to create comments and feedback when we move to a peer review round. Ultimately, what I'm seeing when this happens is that students are learning from each other. One of the exercises we do is to post a qualification like leadership, and each student has to come up with the way that they might have that. And very often I hear them say, oh, I never thought of doing that, but that works for me. Ultimately, what I've found in this study is that not only do students grasp and employ the key strategies we know are crucial to resume design, but that in the end, they offer more rhetorically savvy work. That means they're spending more time thinking about their audience and less time trying to repeat a case example from the course. Second big application. That assignment takes place in the larger context of my course that's built around a concept of networked learning for professional development. This is BCom Commons, a custom designed course site that I created on the WordPress platform. As you can see, students all have a professional identity they're developing on this course site. They're not only interacting with materials, they're producing material. One of the assignments that they do is to provide a great self-introduction And the unique thing is that we use the same kind of flipped learning collaborative approach, and at the end they post it on the course site. And then after that, they revise it for a LinkedIn profile. And after that, they do a networking assignment where they, with the support of their peers, reach out to somebody in their field who maybe they would never have the confidence to reach out to in any other format. And they do an interview and post it on their blog. My students not only dive into this and do it, but they also read each other's blog posts in their field and they learn from them. What I find is that it dramatically improves their self-efficacy for networking and dramatically improves their reported likelihood of engaging in networking behaviors after the class. More importantly, I think teaching the course this way helps them with learning transfer. They start to use across the multimodal dimensions the same skills. One student discussed, wow, this keyword's really opened my eyes. When I did my LinkedIn, I really thought about that. I also think that at the very least, it gives them an icebreaker experience where they've done this once with support and it's been a success so that they're eager to do it again. They develop a professional identity and they develop a personal learning network. But I think the most powerful aspect of this experience to me as a teacher is that what happens in this style of teaching is that students start to see the everyday little things we're doing, working on resumes, working on cover letters, how to write an email, as part of a lifelong learning project, as part of building a set of tools that will allow them to be successful in finding a job and of being successful throughout their life. And I think the online identity part of this plays a big role in that reflective process. So it's networking, self-development, innovation, understanding, and standing out. But don't take my word for it.
I feel like this was one of the first courses where it's not just about a grade and how you do on a test. This is about your life and your career, and this is how you better yourself.
It wasn't just to get the project done, it really was creative thinking and having to come up with things, and a lot of times people got excited about it. It wasn't just that end result, it was kind of the journey along the way too.
I mean, yeah, you're not just one person going out and doing stuff. You're one person who's helping another person who then uses what you learn, or they learn from you to help somebody else. So it's just constantly a growing thing, and I feel like that's extremely important. And on day one, I would have never thought that that's what would have happened.
So this is an excerpt of a part of a larger documentary I did. If you're interested, also at my personal site, there's a full-length documentary that goes over the different assignments and the parts of the course, all told through the voice of the students. I just asked open-ended questions and let them talk. They really responded to this. So that's kind of my half ending point. What I'll do now is just give you kind of survey of some of the other things that I'm interested in, and then I would encourage you to check it out online or come find me afterwards, and I'd love to talk to you about it. The biggest thing that I'm interested in right now is this, team communication platforms, because I believe it takes some of the lessons I'm learning from doing networked learning in the classroom into the workplace. These are team chat environments, but there's so much more. They're bringing in bots that can automate functions. They're bringing in integrations with external tools like project management softwares and other kinds of information communication technologies. And what they're leading to is a kind of communication visibility among teams and organizations where important information is not trapped in email, but is in the open for anybody to encounter and to work with. In a study that I'm working on right now, the people who are using these tools are sharing incredible stories about knowledge sharing, incredible stories about the kind of innovation and creativity this communication visibility enables, and incredible stories about vicarious learning. And so ultimately, this is one of those instances where I feel like I'm betting the right horse. And when I saw these tools come out and what people are saying about them, I'm seeing that this is happening in the workplace as well. In addition to that, some tools I got my eye on. Cloud-based LMSs that have integrated group functions where you can break into small groups right in the moment. Yellowdig, which is a really cool discussion board that allows points for every little thing and you can endlessly manipulate it. WeVideo, collaborative video editing. I use this tool to rehearse, record, edit, and post TED Talks for my MBA students all in a weekend. Collaborative writing tools. Google Docs is great, but these ones allow you to do full research approaches in a collaborative environment. Authoria as well. Project management, I'm seeing on the firms that I'm studying, especially the small technology-related ones, it's Trello and Slack, 2 together. Everybody's doing it. Medium is changing the way people blog. Now it's not just about Twitter, but it's long form. And then this one's a little counterintuitive. I want to say just one word about this before I end today. So we know Yik Yak has caused some problems. This is the anonymous, local-based chat service, and there's been some bullying, and there's been some inappropriate things. But I also think that there's some powerful things here. Every once in a while will dip into this on my campus, and it's really valuable to me to remember that my students are funny, that they are clever, that they're awful, that they're all the things they are. And it's incredible to me the way that they'll pour out their heart when something's going wrong, and the other ones will jump in. And so I think it really helps with your compassion for your students. And so I really recommend it, even though you might see some things you would rather you hadn't. Lastly, these are my multimedia design resources that I keep curated for my students, including a lot of open resources, open tools, and a lot of other good stuff. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.